Listen, everyone loves a little bit of comfort, whether it's your favorite tracksuit or 7, or maybe a bit of a throwback recipe. So today I wanted to throw it back to a key era for the tracksuit, specifically those tracksuits that had like the stirruped little leggings that I feel like my mom wore in the 80s. Not gonna lie, kind of jealous of them. Very cool. A pant that kind of has a shoe, very neat. But I wanted to do that kind of in food form with a bit of a throwback. So I'm gonna call this dish my ultimate 80s pasta. Yeah. The name is not the most descriptive name, but when you see the ingredients, you're gonna be like, yeah, here comes the 80s. Here comes the hairspray. We've got it all. The Lycra, we're good to go. Now, in this pasta, it's got all the kind of key flavors that I think of when I think of like classic kind of 80s cuisine, especially kind of like Italian-American restaurant vibe. We've got sun-dried tomatoes. We've got parsley, but it is flat leaf, not curly leaf. If you're really going authentic, it would be curly leaf parsley. I'm also using angel hair pasta. But the first thing we know that we need to start on is the sauce. So for that, I'm going in big with garlic. I love garlic. It's such a good flavor. So I have 3 of the world's biggest garlic cloves right here. They're about the size of a tennis ball, which is fantastic. I'm gonna thinly slice those up. Now, if you didn't want this much garlic, you could feel free to lighten this up, maybe do 2 cloves, but honestly, you do you. Now, I am slicing the garlic as opposed to mincing it because that's gonna lead to a softer garlic flavor as it cooks down in the pan. Garlic's kind of weird, it's kind of counterintuitive. The more you cut it, the stronger the flavor gets. So when you actually leave it bigger and more whole before cooking it, it's actually gonna have a soft garlic flavor and be nice and sweet, as opposed to that punchy, kind of spicy garlic bread flavor. So nice thin slice of garlic, perfect, perfect. And I wanna add that into a pan over medium heat. I'm gonna add in a couple tablespoons of olive oil. To be honest, if you wanted, you could do this as a nice oily sauce, but I'm gonna add in some whipping cream because I feel like it, because why not? But I am gonna go in with about 2 tablespoons of oil just to get things going. If you did wanna do this as more of an oil-based sauce, obviously you'd go in with some more oil just to give it that flavor and carry everything around and get all the noodles coated later. Now I'm gonna give that a bit of a stir, season that up with some salt, little bit of pepper. Now, the salt at this point actually just helps kind of cook down the garlic. It helps remove a little bit of moisture from there, but it doesn't actually really, it's not really about adding saltiness, it's more just about the cooking process. The pepper, she's for flavor, it's gonna be beautiful. Now, I'm gonna turn this down because I don't want the garlic to brown too much. I just want it to cook down for about a minute, just to start to soften. So while that garlic starts doing its thing, I'm just gonna chop up my sun-dried tomatoes. Now, I don't know what it is about sun-dried tomatoes, but they were like the biggest thing since sliced bread in like the late 80s kind of situation. They're so packed with umami flavor. You don't necessarily think of them as being meaty or umami, but they really are. They're super tasty, really, really concentrated. I've got about half a cup of sun-dried tomatoes here, and I just want to cut those up. If you wanted to, you could get the ones that are already julienned in the jar. That would be easy breezy, but I like to get them a little bit whole because they feel like they're a little bit meatier in texture, which is absolutely beautiful. I pretty much always have sun-dried tomatoes on hand because this adds a ton of like really low and slow cooked down flavor into literally anything you add it to. Let's give them a nice chop up, maybe run it through the other way as well. Now, when you buy your sun-dried tomatoes also, make sure you're getting the oil-packed ones. You don't want to get the dry ones, they're a little too like a candy. They're too dry, not what I'm looking for. So the oil-packed ones are good to go. All right, my garlic is looking great. It's getting a little bit toasty, a little bit golden brown. It smells wonderful in here. So now I want to deglaze this pan and start kind of building the sauce. So for that, I'm going in with my good friend, white wine. Now we only need a 1/4 cup of white wine, so this is great for that little tail end that maybe is past its prime. It's gonna work perfectly in the dish though. So a 1/4 cup of that goes right on in, and immediately that starts reducing down. And you want that to reduce down by about half. So basically we're looking to get that 1/4 cup to around 2 tablespoons. While that's reducing, once that gets nice and done, I'm gonna add in those sun-dried tomatoes. These are oily, they're punchy, there's tons of flavor in here. I'm going right on into the pan with those sun-dried tomatoes as that wine simmers down. Turn up the heat a little. Again, this is still over around medium heat. That's what we're looking for. Now into there for a little bit of spice, I'm going in with some chili flakes. If you are not a fan of spice, feel free to leave it out. But I do love that little kind of tickle and heat that it gives. I'm going in with a whole teaspoon because I like things spicy. But if you want, you can pull back. I'm not gonna because we like things spicy in the Berg household. So a teaspoon goes right on in. If you wanted to add in some greens, some spinach, or some kale, would be absolutely beautiful. I'd add it in a little later just to make sure it doesn't cook down too much and get that kind of brown color that all green vegetables had back then. If you ever had a Brussels sprout before the year 2015, you did not have a good Brussels sprout, let me tell you that. All right, now, see, all that wine has cooked down. It's reduced, it's a little thick, and we've only got about 2 tablespoons of that in the pan. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add in some whipping cream. Love a good whipping cream. Yeah. If you were to add in any other type of cream, the chances it might split because there's a little bit of acidity in that wine. So you actually want that higher fat content because that's gonna reduce the risk of this splitting in this sauce. So I'm going in with a cup of heavy cream because that's what we're doing today. I'm very excited about it. We're gonna let that simmer and do its thing, just cook down and thicken up. It's gonna bring on the color of that sun-dried tomato. While that's doing its thing, we're gonna get to work on our pasta. Now, as I said, we are doing a beautiful angel hair pasta, also known as capellini. It's a really, really thin kind of spaghetti noodle, long noodle. It cooks in no time flat, so you really don't wanna overcook it. To be honest, this takes about 4 minutes, but you do wanna make sure, because it's in that water so quickly, you wanna season the water really well. This is where I'll lose some people. I know everyone's gonna gasp with the amount of salt I put in, but most of this salt goes down the drain. I do like to season the pasta water nicely though, because I do use a little bit of this water to actually add and season in the sauce. So season it nicely, tastes kind of like the ocean. Then you want to use anywhere from about 350 to 400 grams of that angel hair pasta. This will feed about 4 very hungry people, 6 regular hungry people. So I'm gonna go straight on into that bowl, or that pot. I like to grab my noodles anytime I'm doing a long noodle, give it a twist, and then drop it in. Isn't it nice? Do you know what? This reminds me of my Nana's crystal, the cornflower shape. Do you know what I'm talking about? I was like, I knew we had some people who know what I'm talking about. All right, I'm gonna get those noodles in. These are gonna get nice and cooked. This is bubbling down beautifully. Now I wanna add in some parsley. If we were going very authentic 1980s, this would be curly parsley. But in my personal opinion, curly parsley tastes a little too green in this dish. If you do wanna do it and you prefer curly parsley, go for it. Honestly, it lasts longer in your fridge. So if you're someone who's gonna use it sparingly, curly parsley is the way to go. I just want about a tablespoon or 2 of some nice finely chopped parsley in there. I love adding anything green at the tail end of cooking. If you wanted to add in a handful of baby spinach, now would be the time to do it. You just don't want it to cook down so much that you lose that beautiful bright green color and flavor. So I've got that parsley nice and chopped up. So we're gonna add that right on into the sauce. And I will say that I do believe that there's something missing from this pasta dish, and that is my good friend cheese. Because so far we have got, yes, cream, we've got sun-dried tomatoes, but we need a little bit of cheese. So I'm just going in with some classic Parmigiano Reggiano. We're going with the brick style. It's gonna give the nice creaminess into this dish. So I'm just gonna grate that right on over top. And this is where, in this recipe, I just say Parmesan cheese. I don't say how much you should put in. This is where this recipe becomes your secret recipe, and you put in as much or as little parm as you want. If I was not on TV right now, I would be standing here for approximately 8 minutes grating this cheese. You remember going to those restaurants and the waiter would come over and be like, tell me when? And you'd say, oh, buddy, you don't know what you just did. You're about to spend your whole night right here grating that cheese. Exactly, in the wheel one. Remember that? Oh, I absolutely loved it. All right. Mary Berg, stop adding the cheese. You're good to go. Okay, give that a good stir in. And as you can see, this is nice and thick now. Since this is a thicker sauce, though, and we have such a fine noodle, you do want to use some of this pasta cooking liquid to loosen it up, but also bring it together. This stuff, with all the starch in there, all that starch from cooking noodles, really is kind of like food Velcro. It helps everything stick together. So I'm just gonna drag those beautiful noodles straight on into the pot. Any water that comes along with them is perfect. It's gonna help build the sauce. It kind of sounds counterintuitive because you're like, well, it's water, it's gonna thin it out. But somehow that starch adds almost like a little magnet, holding the sauce to those noodles, making it even creamier and more delicious. So I've got that pasta in there. Then I'm just gonna grab a ladle and just add in a few scoops of that seasoned, starchy pasta cooking liquid. Start with a little and then just keep on adding. Whenever you are making pasta tossed in a sauce in a pan, you wanna make it sloppier in the pan than you want it on the plate. Because as soon as starch starts to cool, it starts to get a little tight. So make it nice and soupy and sloppy. This is looking pretty good to me, maybe a little touch more. Again, it's got the seasoning. This is where you could add more salt, more chili. A little lemon juice would be beautiful. You could add it right now, again, if you use that whipping cream. But to me, this is looking absolutely perfect. So let's head on over, plate this up. So pop this down. If you want to go a little fancy, you can grab your ladle. And we're gonna do a nice little chefy twirl. So grab your tongs, grab any bit of the pasta, pop it into the ladle, give it a swirl. In that ladle, you could also just use a serving spoon. Then you're gonna bring this over to your plate, land it down, pop it down, and you've got a nice little nest of perfect pasta. Now, what you don't wanna miss are all the treasures on the side. They always tend to hide right over here in the little nooks and crannies of your plate. Pop those sun-dried tomatoes on top, give you a little bit more parm. If you want it to be authentic, that little bit of curly parsley right on the side. Okay, you know what? Pasta always takes better out of the pot, so I'm gonna go right into here. Okay, cool, let's give this a go. I'm very excited about this. 3, 2, 1. It's really hot. That is delicious. I'm gonna go have a glass of water because I just burnt my mouth. Hey, Mary here. What did you think? Drop your comments below and don't forget to like and subscribe for more of the good stuff.